Hey there, guys. Fan with too much time here. Just checking in to give an update. Not intending to go into politics this time, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to skim it a little bit because I do want to talk about some recent media matters, and as most of us know and hate, these things are now webbed together and entangled, and one cannot address one without addressing the other because one is the cause of the other. But this should steer clear of raw politics. I don't intend to talk about the golden calf or anything relating to things like that or policy. This is actually more directed towards the people who should be my fellow liberals, but that I will save for the very end of the video. So when you hear me talking about it, I'll give a warning and you can just stop right there if you like, or keep going. It is not my intention to offend anyone, and I do try to be as even-handed as I can. Still recovering. Don't feel quite well enough to dive head first into the Q&As, so no Q&As today. Very sorry. I was very sick. I think that I overworked myself in the last run, producing so many episodes in a single week, and I think that it bummed out my immune system at around the same time that it was under attack, and I got hit with a few things at once. Recovering now, feeling much better, but for a little while there, it really did feel like I got run over by like 8 different kinds of bus, all of them driven by chaos gods. It was really bad. Felt really bad. Feeling much better now. Like, you can't even imagine. So first, let's do a little update. So work on the next episode, Lords of Catastrophe, or rather The Lords of Catastrophe, has begun again, and the episode should be ready in about 2 weeks. I'm really eager to get through this whole Axum arc. Things have finally narrowed down. The last few scenarios are playing out. I've actually put a lot of my other projects to the side to help get this one done. And while I don't want to shoot myself in the foot with any more bad estimates, because you guys know that I am terrible at measuring that out, I think that we should be no more than 5 or so episodes away from Axum's culminations and conclusions. Soon we will be returning to Anakin Skywalker and how his adventure ties into this, and after that, we'll follow through with Orion's prophecy and his special operation. I have a fan named Omniversal Studios. Remember that. Omniversal Studios. Please check out his channel, because he is helping me a great deal with AI voices. Please check out his channel. I'll put a link to it in the description, and you should be able to see his name popping up somewhere on the screen here. Show the guy some love, because he has been putting in a lot of work to give me some very interesting samples here. AI voices are amazing. Not absolutely perfect, but they may be they may be close enough. Instead of me trying to sit here and describe to you how accurate I think they've gotten, here are some samples of Ahsoka Tano from some people's favorite episodes. Tell me what you guys think.
All right, let's go. Can you speak? We are not monsters. We could kill you all here and now, and it would be easier. This does not need to be a slaughter. There can still be honor between foes. Surrender. Please surrender. Rex, set blasters to stun and take them. Take this, and use it when you have no choice. But be careful. I just want them helpless, not to cripple them further. Make sure you don't damage them so badly we can't replace their cybernetics with our own. This is meant to be mercy, Trooper, not a dissection. You may as well have said you are a priest of the Dancing Order of the Divine Nonsense, because none of those words meant anything to me. What in the galaxy is the motive force? Why is there an order for it? And does any of that have anything to do with why you are blue? No, it's just, your homeworld's name is Dirt. I mean, is that just me misunderstanding the translation? Did you find it? Peace, I mean? You preach one truth and act out another. You said that your largest concern is to execute the will of the Force. Because it is the wish of the sane, the reason I fight. Because it is the will of the Force. I am not lying. I hate to hear this. I hate to see how much you must have gone through, but you are wrong. Wrong about the Republic. We don't want to do anything like that to anybody. For the Force's sake, there are more human senators than there are alien ones. You're wrong about your reaction to these things that have happened to you. Wrong to become the monsters you so hate. To do to everyone what they have been doing to you. You're even wrong about me being an alien. I don't really know. Could you explain to me what an abhuman is?
So, tell me for real, what do you guys think? Should I replace Ahsoka's performance and the performances of most, if not all, of the female voices or characters with voices that are already known with these AI voices? It's a very interesting concept or prospect to me, and of course AI will only get better. I'm leaving that decision in your hands. Please let me know what you think I should do in the comments down below. This is a very important decision here. I'm definitely going to use AI voices for some things. I mean, you just heard some of the Ahsoka Tano, some of the Ahsoka Tano samples. But there are some clone trooper samples too that I can't show due to spoilers. And very good. I think that at the very least, I'll have to use the AI voice for the minor performances in each episode, because like the clone voices were just, they blew my attempts out of the water, which you guys know I'm no professional at voice acting, so it's a relief to get that kind of authenticity in there. But please, in the comments down below right now, pause the video and tell me what you think about the idea that I should replace either a single character's voice and who that character should be, or all the female characters' voices, or all of the already voiced characters' voices like Mace Windu and Obi-Wan Kenobi with the AI voices, and I'll pitch it to Universal or Omniversal Studios. He's already doing a lot of work, so I'll have to be picky and choosy about which ones I hand over for him. But even so, this will have a huge impact, so go ahead and let me know what you think about that. Lastly, and here's a little bit of your warning for people. I'm about to talk about like The Mandalorian and a lot of things about like Marvel comics. I used to read so many Marvel comics, and like I said, these things are intrinsically tied up with identity politics and things like that. I'm going to talk about those things versus quality and writing and whatnot. And so if you don't want to hear any of that, here's where you may want to hop off. Now, disclaimer, I have not watched The Mandalorian Season 3. And after seeing how they stole the purpose of The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 within the Book of Boba Fett by having Grogu abandon Luke to return to the status quo, I am not eager. I'm not eager to watch any more of The Mandalorian. For me, that ship has almost, if not completely sailed, because, I mean, how bad storytelling when you're, literally, like, tossing out the whole point of, it's so bad. Narratively, Grogu going back for so little reason, it just cheapens so much of what came before. It really does. I mean, heck, even the Mandalorian's problems with the Covenant, because he removed his helmet, it's all a result of him thinking that was going to be, like, potentially the last time he ever saw Grogu. And certainly among the last times, if not the last time, he'd ever be in his custody. It was a moment of gravitas, and it was stolen by this atrocious decision to put him back together for so little reason. I mean, it would have been one thing if Luke was suddenly under attack and he needed to give him back to the Mandalorian while he sorted through the people who were hunting him or something like that. It would make sense, at least a little bit. Still wouldn't be good, but it wouldn't be as horrific as what we got, which is just Luke giving this choice to a child who is by nature and design unwise, but whatever. So, I'm not eager to go back to it for that reason alone. Very narratively bankrupt, very greedy of Lucasfilms and Disney to do that. But I also have heard that they steal the spotlight from the titular Mandalorian in The Mandalorian Season 3 in order to give it in sneaky fashion to Bo-Katan. Now, I like Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan was a lot of fun, especially in the Clone Wars. She's a lot of fun, very interesting character. But why is there no honesty in supposedly liberally fueled media anymore? We used to be the gold standard for honesty. I mean, think about it. Before the rise of the culture war and this identity politics bullshit and the Force is female and all of that, it was just commonly accepted that the vast majority of artists, creators, writers, movie directors were liberal. Because you kind of have to be liberal to be creative and invent new things as opposed to being overly conservative. It's not always the case, but it is definitely the historical precedent that it was for the most part. And now I just don't know what to believe. The word liberal has been taken and abused so strongly. I used to be proud of the idea of being progressive. Who doesn't want to be progressive? Who doesn't want to progress, go forward boldly into the future? But it's now less about going boldly into the future, and now it's about a bunch of other things and stopping people from going where they want to go, forcing them to conform, which is conservative in nature. And of course you need a certain amount of that. I mean, conformity is a great part of what makes civilization possible, but it shouldn't be seen as liberal. It's two halves of different things. It's just everything is upside down now, so upside down. The thing is that it's like Bo-Katan is not the Mandalorian. She is a Mandalorian. It's not impossible for her. It's not impossible to turn her into the Mandalorian. You definitely can. But to do that, you need to put in the legwork. It needs to be a whole process by which it goes down. The characters need to be, the character needs to be subtly introduced and reintroduced, rather, in this case, and endeared to the audience. and endeared even to the main cast in certain ways, but like definitely to the audience. You need to build the bricks and stepping stones that make the audience who are watching secretly want this to be the case, even if they don't really know yet that they want it, so that when it happens, it doesn't actually feel like a subversion, but it feels like a gift. That's like, it's good writing. Is that that you already make people want it before they know they want it, and the way you do that is by doing the legwork, which typically takes more than one season. Again, I haven't watched The Mandalorian Season 3. Maybe they do it well, but if they did it well, I would have expected to see a lot less complaints and a lot more hype. I see a distinct lack of hype, a distinct spike in complaints. And, this is from the same fan base that fawns over several other female characters: Ahsoka Tano, Dr. Aphra, Princess Leia. So, it's not like Star Wars is a patriarchy. It's always, for a long time now, been a nice spread of fan favorites, and in them are several strong female characters who are legitimate and cool and a joy to read and watch. So, it just it didn't feel too good to hear that they're going to go ahead and put Bo-Katan in this compromising position where, through the virtue or lack thereof of bad writing, a character who should be beloved and has every chance to be is going to be tarnished by being hurriedly pushed into the spotlight when a different character was promised to be there. When you go to McDonald's, you don't want pizza. It doesn't mean that pizza isn't good. It just means that you wanted a burger. You go to get a burger, you don't want to go to a pizza. You look at the restaurant, it says burgers here. You go inside and they tell you, oh, well, we've run out of burgers, but we've got pizza. And it's like, well, that's a disappointment, even though pizza is good. Potentially even better than burgers, but not when you were looking for burgers. So controlling and dedicating to the right manipulation of an audience's expectation is very important in writing. And I don't necessarily say that as a fellow writer who knows how well I do at that myself. It's just I say that as an audience member, not as a writer. I go in wanting a thing. You better give me what I want, or you better have put in the work to convince me before you present the option that what I'm getting is even better. One comes before the other, not the other way around. So this subverting of expectations is a cancer, really, really cancer, really cancer. So I don't expect that I will watch The Mandalorian Season 3. Like many of you already know, I have not watched any Disney media for Star Wars whatsoever, with the exception of a few episodes of Andor because of the request of a friend. But outside of that, I haven't watched a single bit of anything since the Book of Boba Fett, because the Book of Boba Fett was just one of the worst things I've ever seen in my entire life. I really can't get over it. And I didn't expect not to be able to get over it, but I just can't do it. It's just so bad. So, there are people talking about, we're about to get Ahsoka back. We're about to get Thrawn on screen live action. We're about to get Ezra back from Clone Wars. I mean, not Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels. And I wish I wish I could be excited about it. I so do wish I could be excited about it. If you told me this a few years ago, we're going to get Thrawn live action, I would have been so excited. Now I'm just scared. Now I'm just depressed because I wonder, what are they going to do to Thrawn? How will they mess him up? How will they make him make room for the First Order, subordinate himself before the greater non-narratively driven force of Disney and its whole crackpot of kook writers and terrible decisions. I used to think Disney could do no wrong, you know. They made Endgame. They made Infinity War. Those things were mind-blowing, really. Even when they got cringy with the women power scene, which is honestly, it's like when you have to take the women out of the general power scenes and give them their own power scene. It kind of it doesn't make them feel more cool or greater. Not unless you do it in a very particular way. It just feels contrived, like it's there not because it would be there in the universe, because people here in our universe are pushing it in. But it was easily forgivable because it was cool enough, and also because it was surrounded by the gem that was everything else around it. So it was not bad, really. It was a small scratch on a nearly flawless gem, and honestly, gave it a little bit of character, like flaws tend to, but not when everything is a flaw. You know, it's a real problem. I see a lot of these new heroes in Marvel Comics. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of characters we see today aren't full people anymore. Their identities literally revolve around their race, their gender, and their gender identity. And real people shouldn't revolve around that. It's one thing if you're being persecuted over it, then yeah, I mean, it's not so much that your entire identity revolves around it, so much as that the world around you is forcing so much of your moment-to-moment survival to be a part of it, that you can't help but think about it a lot, because it's the cause of so many of your issues and so many of the things that you have to go through. But that's not you doing it. That's the world doing it to you. You know, like a Jew during the Holocaust doesn't predominate their entire identity as a Jew, but the entire reason they're in such a problem mess right now is because they've been identified as Jewish by intolerant people, and therefore it's organic, feels like that. And then the great tragedy is that that person is definitely way more than a Jew, and the audience comes to understand, when they view stories of that nature, the great tragedy of persecuting people over these kinds of single identity issues, because people are realistically way more than that, and to destroy them or discriminate against them because of something like that is inherently wasteful of their humanity. And now we have something in like the reverse, you know. So many of these new heroes are just all about that. That's where they focus. And it's like even their marketing, like for example, Lady Thor, you know, like Thor but a woman, is so much more than Thor but a woman. She, in her comics, they're actually some of the more compelling gender swaps that I've seen, because, you know, she has cancer, and every time she invokes the power, it doesn't make it better, it makes it worse, therefore adding this level of humanistic mortality and nuance to the very act of activating these powers. But sadly, she didn't take a new name. She's still Thor, Lady Thor at best, so she will always ride the coattails of Thor and always be in the shadow of that character, never quite able to surpass it despite what merits she may have, because the writers simply couldn't be bothered to give her a better name. They decided to ride on the marketability of Thor's existing name, no confidence in their own power, and it's not good. You know, Lady Thor will never have as much innate marketing face value potential as Valkyrie, because she will always be seen by those who are looking to look into her and don't know about her already as the female version of Thor, whereas Valkyrie is not the female version of male Valkyrie. She's Valkyrie. She is her own woman with a different past, different source of power, and vastly different motivations and styles, which can all be implied just from her name. And then you have things like Ironheart, who will always just be the try-hard female Black Iron Man. Whereas War Machine will almost never be seen as merely Black Iron Man. Why? Well, for one thing, there's no great, giant, obvious similarity or passing down of the torch, so to speak, between War Machine and Iron Man. And even more than that, War Machine has more thematically in common with Captain America. Yet he stands apart even there in that he's no straight paragon. He's not given the same leeway in his stories as Captain America is to do what Captain America thinks is absolutely right. War Machine is a soldier doing what he can and what he thinks is right in the midst of a very real and powerful military-industrial complex, which is always looking to make him into a pawn or seeking to turn him into a martyr. And watching him struggle against that is the thing that Tony Stark never had to do. And he's not trying to fill Tony Stark's shoes or change what it means to be Iron Man. And therefore, he's just not associated, even though he looks a lot more like Iron Man at this point than Ironheart does. It's interesting too, because like War Machine is not better than Iron Man, which honestly makes him more interesting when I read about him. He's not just one-upping Tony Stark. He's got a friendship relationship with him sometimes, but it's not the same thing as trying to replace him or be him but better, which is really dumb, and it's all Ironheart seems to do. Changing existing characters to fit a political mold also rarely works, because it's not only the case that this political mold, that these well-intentioned people who share my political ideologies are... I'm sorry, head is fucking killing me. It's not just that, that there's this mold that tends to consume everything about them when it's applied to them, but that it needs to be done in a way which agrees with the mold designers as opposed to the character's motivations, like some people have told me, for example, in my own story, that they're like, oh, why is Ahsoka Tano trying for peace so hard? And I mean, for one thing, it is something that she would try to do, but she also has internal motivations that are very explicit that would lead her to be that way. Not the least of which being that she was literally killed on Mortis and then brought back to life by reinvesting the soul of the daughter, the incarnation of the light side herself, into Ahsoka. And you might think, oh, well, then why isn't she a pacifist? The daughter was never a pacifist. The light side is not pacifistic. The light side is natural. It seeks balance. It is generally well-natured, but in a very long view sense. So, of course, Ahsoka's traits, which are very short view and mortal, combined with the innate internal depth of the light side, and therefore Ahsoka tells her clones to cut the limbs off of the captured Skitarii, because Ahsoka ain't no fool, and she's not going to let things like compassion and kindness blind her entirely to the point of suicide. But at the same time, she's going to try her very best and even put out certain risks to see if this can't be ended in a way that would result in less death and bloodshed and heartbreak for both sides. I mean, Ahsoka knows the Confederacy is led by a Sith, has seen the atrocities they commit and how there have been chances for peace with the Confederacy, and that either the Republic squanders it or the Confederacy squanders it. And there hasn't been a chance for peace between the Imperials, who they know virtually nothing about, and the Republic. And if when she began delving into the motivations the Empire has for acting the way they do. If she had found that they were doing it just because they're power hungry, or just because they're evil, or just because they're cruel, which some of them most certainly do, but that's not the way the majority of the people who run and are being run by the Imperium operate. They're afraid. The Imperium is run by fear. It's extremely analogous to what Yoda had said in Episode 1. You know, fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. You don't defeat that by encouraging it. You defeat it by confronting it and giving it another option. You have to give them another option. Droids don't surrender, but these aren't droids. It's a very different context. So, that's how I try to play Ahsoka out in this series, and this is why she's the proponent for peace. Contrast that with things like Deadpool. Deadpool's latest change. Deadpool is now romantically involved with a non-binary Korean mercenary, I believe, which kicks my ass, because what really kicks my ass about this is it's not that this person is non-binary or Korean or whatever. It's just that Deadpool has been in relationships before, and what's been shown is that he can't really maintain them because he's a tragic figure. He's very comedic, but he's also a very tragic figure. Deadpool, Deadpool is he's insane. He's insane for many reasons. He's insane because of the shifting and healing cancer in his brain due to the mixture of his illness and his meta-human powers. And on top of that, Deadpool is he's even if he got that cured, he's still fucked up from his life experience and from all the things he's gone through, like any soldier or warrior might be. And it has made him toxic in ways that don't allow him to have long-lasting relationships, which doesn't mean that I don't want to see him try one of those, but it does mean that relationship can't be too idyllic. It needs to make sense. It needs to be it needs to make sense with the character. It needs to make sense, and it doesn't make sense for Deadpool to be super lovey-dovey and copacetic with this person without a great amount of build-up, which I haven't been made privy to. That's the thing. There needs to be build-up. The legwork needs to be put in, and it so rarely is. And then once it goes down the way that a person might imagine an idyllic relationship to go down, more or less, as opposed to the way it should actually go down when the flaws of the characters and their personalities are taken into consideration. And that's not good. It's really, really, really not good. That's a very, very bad thing. So, I'm going to have to wrap it up a little bit. I need to go lie down again. Let me see here. But what was I saying? Right. It doesn't rhyme narratively with the themes that we've seen Deadpool existing within. Instead, it rhymes more as it's like fitting a brand of "this is good, everyone wants this." It's the same thing with John Kent and Tim Drake. Tim Drake's new bisexual gay relationship and John Kent's gay relationship. They read less like those characters actually having interesting stories with those relationships being a part of their lives and the normal interactions they would have, and it reads more instead I don't know, like advertisements for these kinds of relationships instead of actually interesting scenarios involving these interesting characters having relationships with real flawed people. It almost reads like propaganda, and that has no place in creative media, regardless of what your political bent is, left or right. Now, full disclosure, I think that when the modern contemporary right does this, I think it's more dangerous than when the left does it, because when the left does it, it's just annoying and it destroys good characters and histories, and it damages the liberal cause, which is what makes it the most dangerous, because it gives reason for people to be against inclusion. It gives cause for people who already have a bias or a hatred against these things to fuel that bias, to remember that hatred, to keep it fresh, because it's not being done in a skillful way or an honest way. And then it damages the actual liberal causes of everybody gets the same rights, everyone gets the same opportunities. We don't discriminate against people like that. It damages that. That's what makes it dangerous. Whereas some of which is not as much, which is why I don't bring it up as much, but like when I do see it, like a modern day right-wing bent to things, it's often hero worship, nationalism, which, there needs to be a certain amount of nationalism. You should be proud of where you come from and what you've done with the place, but not to the point of forgetting reality or overlooking tremendous sin, or being blind to things that could be done better. Nationalism can be very dangerous when taken to the extreme in a really direct way that can involve people being horrifically persecuted or destroyed, murdered, which is why I tend to look much more ruefully upon the right-wing bent of this kind of thing than the left-wing bent. But the fact of the matter is just this. Right now, the left-wing bent is propagating like maggots in rotten meat. And something needs to be said about it, especially by us who are actually part of the liberal cause. I believe gay people, trans people, and whatever gender identity you have, people should have equal rights under the law with literally anyone else and everyone else. I do not begrudge anyone having relationships with whoever they want. I do not hate that they are included or represented in popular media. It is the case that I'm a straight white guy. I mean, I'm kind of a mutt, but I came out white, so for all intents and purposes, you see me on the street, I'm white. A straight white guy, I still support all these things. I have no intention of ever transitioning. I have no intention of ever becoming a literal part of the LGBTQ community, because I'm not LGBTQ. I'm just an ally, helping however I can because it's the right thing to do. But when their very existence of inclusion to these things becomes the avenue and the excuse by which favorite existing characters and franchises lose their quality of writing, these people who write these things not only damage these beloved characters, but they damage the very cause they think they're representing. And that, more than anything else, burns me. Because, yes, I love fiction. I'm a fiction writer. But I love real people more. I don't want to see them get regressed and persecuted again, because these things can be used against them, and they definitely can. These liberal writers who call themselves liberal but are really not, They need to remember the course of history. The pendulum swings, and these people are becoming the perfect excuses to shun all representation in the future and to justify hatred and bias against the groups they think they're representing. And the corporations that back them, they're either malicious because they know what they're doing, or they're foolish because they can't see the obvious repercussions of their actions. Yeah, please, Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, Amazon, all the rest, please, just stop. Get some help. Pull your heads out of your asses and start writing stories about characters and worlds again, and not about the politics that exist outside of them. If you want to create worlds with those issues, create them. That can be incredibly compelling. But don't inject them where they weren't before or where they don't belong. There is a way to have representation, but it involves being true to the characters and the worlds. Don't tarnish what has been hard fought for in an overzealous, low effort, low quality, and dishonest attempt to, brainwash people through their favored media faces. It will do the opposite, and you've already set us back. Please, just stop. Get some help. Touch some goddamn grass. Alright, guys. I'm afraid I'm at the end of my current stamina, so I'll have to go ahead and put it down here. Please let me know what you think in the comments sections down below. And I'll see you next time.